At the April 7th, 2025 Lansing City Council meetings, business licenses were revoked, budgets were dissected, and restroom feelings were shared. There is some mentioning of violent crimes and sex crimes in this episode. Also, our guest details why she is running for City Council. Hello, and welcome to What Lansing Council, a podcast transforming Monday night's Lansing City Council meetings into an enthralling recap. And today, my very special guest is Julie Vandenboom. Julie works for the State of Michigan's Health and Human Services Department. She serves on the city's Capital Area District Libraries Board, and she is running for an at-large City Council seat this year. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
For the City Council seats this year, there are 2 at-large that are going to be open, and I saw on the online 8 folks are signed up to run for at-large. The deadline to register is April 22nd, so if you're thinking of running, get your application in. The primary will be in August and the general election in November. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, great. So can you tell us how you would describe Lansing in your own words?
Okay, and I think you told me 1 to 3 words.
That's right.
So what I came up with is full of potential.
Nice. What do you mean by that?
I think Lansing has the ability to be an amazing city. I think for a lot of us, it is already an amazing city. There's wonderful things to do. There's amazing people in the city. Mm-hmm. But I know at the same time that for many of our neighbors, things aren't working so great. So, yeah, full of potential.
Full of potential. Love it. And what's something else that you like about Lansing?
The people. If I can kind of illustrate like what Lansing is to me, I'm recently divorced. I moved out in July. I had a bed and a desk and a chair. And the East Side Buy Nothing group just came through for me in such an amazing way.
Oh, the Facebook group?
The Facebook group, yeah. Nice, and just everything for the everything for the kitchen.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the way people will look out for folks that they might not even know.
Yeah. Wow, wonderful. Wonderful to hear that success story. And what is something that you'd like to see changed in Lansing?
I would like to see changed in Lansing, and this is me going to sound like a hippie. I would love it if our government could treat folks with compassion, empathy, respect. And I think the word we heard in last night's council meeting was dignity.
Yes.
And I think that there's some places where the city gets that right. Mm-hmm. And I think there's sometimes that the city misses the mark.
Mm-hmm. And what are those places where they're missing the mark?
One that is near and dear to my heart. I work with a local organization called The Rent is Too Damn High. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we do is outreach to some of our unhoused neighbors. And the times that I've seen the city decide that it's time for an encampment to move on, sometimes these are neighborhoods. These are people that have built a community that are looking out for each other. Mm-hmm. And the city decides that it's time for them to move on and just bulldozes it.
With no plan of where they can go next.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, they'll get them a hotel room for the night, right? But, I mean, there's caseworkers, there's family members that's how they know where to find their people, right?
Wow.
So it's
a lack of compassion, a lack of dignity for those folks.
Yeah.
Was that one of the reasons why you decided to run for this at-large position?
That's definitely one of the reasons why, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your platform and
why
you're going for it?
So I ran for City Charter Commission last year, mm-hmm. and that position, I had never thought about running for office before, but that position resonated for me because that's kind of what I do in my day job, like changing things to make them more equitable, more efficient. And so I really wanted to have a seat at that table. Ended up missing the mark by just 18 votes.
Oh. If all you podcast listeners.
Right. So I was ready to move on with my life. I had other things going on. And then folks started reaching out to me from very disparate sections of Lansing. So it wasn't all like the same people, but I just had folks reach out to me and say, hey, have you thought about running for city council? Have you thought about running for something else? Because you're well organized, you work hard, you have the ability to see multiple sides of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we need people like that.
Yeah.
And so there came a tipping point when, I don't know, the 9th or 10th person said that to me. And I was like, I guess I've got to do this, right? So who else is going to, my kid is grown up and I've got time.
Nice.
That's what it takes, I think.
Yeah. Well, great to hear that, and best of luck.
Yes,
it's
thank you.
It's going to be an exciting couple of months.
Yeah, it sure is.
Let's get into the April 7th meeting. Present at the meetings were our council president, Ryan Cost of the 1st Ward. Absent was Jeremy Garza of the 2nd Ward. Everybody else was there, including Adam Hussein of the 3rd Ward, Brian T. Jackson of the 4th Ward, and our at-large members currently Jeffrey Brown, Tamara Carter, our vice president, Trini Pelivanoglu, and Peter Spatafor. So the meeting began. Actually, I had a little bit of trouble getting through security because I had some scissors in my bag.
I've been caught by that one before too. My little tiny scissors. Knitting scissors.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they said, take these out to your vehicle, and I put them in my bike helmet. They were there when I came back, so that was good. At the start of the meeting, the first issue here is some comments by persons representing the Centerfolds business interest. And Centerfolds, also known as Dream Girls, is a strip club on South Pennsylvania Avenue, the site of a murder this year in February and 2 other deaths in previous years. There was a hearing in prior weeks to discuss revoking the business's liquor and cabaret license. A cabaret license is for live entertainment. Raleigh Van Fawcett, the city's Director of Economic Development and Planning Department, was the hearing officer for this hearing, and Councilmember Jackson took issue with his role in this at a prior meeting. Van Fawcett gave a recap of the hearing, stating that there has been a pattern of violence and a long list of illegal activity, and no corrective actions have been taken. And the folks representing Centerfolds did not appear at this hearing. They are not maintaining a safe environment for patrons and staff. There is a risk to the public safety given the severity and frequency of illegal activities, so I recommend you revoke these licenses. One member of the public gave comment on this as well, stating that he attended the hearing and was just appalled by what he saw and heard. It's a disgrace that this has been allowed to go on for so long. People's lives could have been saved if the council had acted sooner. The attorney and manager for Centerfolds came up to give their comments, saying, well, we did not receive notice about this hearing and we deserve due process. There were some inaccuracies presented at the hearing. Councilmember Jackson held up a copy of the certified mail receipt for the hearing notice that was sent to the business, and it was signed, and he's not sure by who because there was a second scrawled signature written in your print your name section. And the city attorney representatives described how 2 notices were sent out and did come back with confirmation receipts, so they have followed their due process. Councilmember Jackson continues to push a little bit, saying, well, there have been a lot of calls at the Lansing Shuffle as well for crime. So in any space in Lansing, public or private, you could say there's a history of violence and illegal activity. So it's not as simple as just having crime at a location. And also, he's saying for the gun folks out there, of course, having a gun is not a crime. President Cost pushed back on that, saying, well, actually, it is illegal to carry a firearm into a bar per the state of Michigan. And a public commenter said, our friend of the Lansing Historic Cemetery president pushed back further on this, saying, actually, it depends on the type of bar. If they, I really felt like we got a lot of different voices here in this discussion, saying that if the establishment makes 50% or more of their revenue sales from food than it does from alcohol, then it is considered a restaurant, and you can bring in a concealed firearm if you have the license, and it's up to the person to make the call of whether or not they think it's 50% to food or not. So no definitive information one way or the other given by the council meeting as to what Centerfolds would fall under.
I don't imagine there's a lot of food there.
Me neither. But I couldn't say for sure. Regardless, They are no longer allowed to serve alcohol or have live entertainment anymore because the council voted unanimously to revoke both of their licenses. And what do you think about this whole situation?
It's a tough one. And I want to point out, I don't know if you're going to mention it, I don't want to steal your thunder, but the idea of the immediate effect. So that to me is an example of where I think the city government could be a little more compassionate, right? Because how many people were ready to go to work last night?
Yeah.
And oh, surprise, you don't have your license is revoked immediately. And it was what, 9:30 at night at that point? Like,
right.
I don't know what time they open. But
yeah.
right. Like, so what, that's just an example of, I think, where something could be done a little more gently.
Give a little bit more consideration for people to get their affairs in order.
And,
And Councilmember Jackson, he did push back on that.
Yes.
And he said he does not vote for immediate effect for anything, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So
I haven't examined his voting record, but yeah, he is the one that I typically see voting against immediate effect.
Next, during the meeting of the whole, there was an hour-long presentation on the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget by Chief Strategy Officer Jake Brower. We've heard from him before, and we've had many budget updates at council. So continuing on, talking about the budget, he gave a reminder to pay your taxes to fund most of us sitting here today. And he again stressed that 33% of the revenue into the general funds comes from property tax in the city, 25% from income tax, and these are both projected to increase slightly next year. And the general fund is set to be at $173 million. They're waiting on a few state budget things that will be finalized later in the year, hopefully, to get some more money for road repair and violent crime prevention. Our bellwether Spatafor says, we're seeing some market volatility. How's this going to affect us next year?
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. Brower says, well, we do a lot of rounding over multiple years, so we could be all right. And Spatafor says, but what if the state budget goes south? Brower says, we do have a $250,000 contingency built into the budget. What do you think about that?
That sounds like the change that you're going to find in your couch cushions for a city budget, right?
0.14% of the budget.
Oh, my gosh.
So hopefully no big problems come up. There were some proposed changes to fees for residents. Most city fees will see some increase with the new proposed budget. And Councilmember Hussein was not happy that these were submitted very late in the process. Mark Lawrence, the mayor's chief of staff, says, well, we weren't sure if we needed an ordinance change to put some new fees into effect, but we don't. So
okay.
They figured it out. Hussein was mildly mollified by this. Then President Cost was disappointed to see trash fee increases to residents. Brower said, even with this increase, we are still running a deficit with trash fee collection overall. So that's tricky.
Yeah.
Councilmember Hussein said, regarding the $1 million for sidewalks in this year's budget, when I first joined council, we were spending $200,000 on sidewalks, and we've been pushing for more money for sidewalks each year. And we need to be at $2.5 million to have a 60-year sidewalk replacement program, which is not even best practice. 25-year turnover would be best practice. And Brower said, talk to public safety. Sorry.
Oh, boy.
What do you think about that sidewalks money?
I would like to see Lansing more walkable, and I'd like to see people not having to struggle with the sidewalks as they are. Yeah. But I understand that where's the money going to come from?
Right.
So, that's a tricky one.
They did talk a little bit about splitting the cost with residents. People could pay half. The city could pay half. Something more to think about there. Then we heard from some economic department and planning folks about Lansing's community development block grant plans for the coming year. This is for federal funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is about $3 million for the coming year. And one part of this that caught the eye of Councilmember Jackson was they offer assistance to folks for rehabilitating rental properties. And Jackson said, but we're moving forward with a lot of red tagging of these broken down properties, and we're charging fees for this. So how does this fit in with this program where you're giving people money to fix up their properties? And Van Fawcett said, well, we give out funding to folks developing properties that will be rented out below the average cost of housing. So we're assisting landlords creating low-income housing.
Okay. I would prefer to see homeowners get assistance rather than landlords getting assistance. Mm-hmm. I'm a renter myself. I don't have any complaints about my current landlord, but I have seen people that are getting, I don't know what language you prefer that I use on the podcast. People are not enjoying the experience that they're having as renters. And I think landlords, they're making money, right? That's why they're in this business. I don't know why we would want to give them the breaks when we could be giving those to homeowners instead.
For sure. But it seems like we do need some sort of mechanism to get low-income housing. Mm-hmm. So I guess making more housing available to people at a cheaper cost may be easier to do from like a large landlord's ownership than on an individual basis. But
yeah, that could be economies of scale.
Yeah. Next, there were budget presentations from 6 out of our 20 city departments: the IT, assessing, city attorney, neighborhood and citizen engagement, police, and economic development and planning departments. Council had sent these folks a list of questions to answer, like, how big is your budget? How much is it changing? Are you retaining folks in your department? What are your big external contracts? How are you more efficient this year than last year? And how's it going with the 311 call system? Have you ever used the 311 call system?
I have.
Tell me about it.
I didn't enjoy it.
Oh, no. Slash it from the budget.
I get what they're trying to do with it, but I think there's times when it makes more sense. Like, if you know what department you're trying to call, just call that department. Yeah. Like, because the times that I have called 311, and I knew like where I was trying to get to, and I'm like, I'm having an issue with my trash pickup. Mm-hmm. And then you got to get transferred. So first you got to wait for 311 to pick up, and then you got to wait. And like, I could have, I get it. Like, if I don't know who I'm trying to reach at the city, that's great. Give me one number and I'll call it and you can get me where I need to go. But if I know who I'm trying to talk to, it just seems like an extra hoop.
An extra layer, yes. Yeah. The attorney's office did say that they are getting fewer calls routed to them in error, so they are enjoying the 311 service. A few other things that jumped out at me. The police chief said that they've been working harder on cold case investigations, and they're partnering with some MSU students to do that. So that was a change in efficiency. The economic planning department said they're happy to be getting one new code enforcement officer, but they could sure use 12. So sorry, Van Fawcett. President Cost is not saying passes unanimously anymore because he thought it was making fun of him on the episode last time. No. And that is a real unintended consequence of this project. I think it had a nice ring to it, and it is also helpful because sometimes council folks aren't saying their yays and nays very clearly into the microphone, so you can't really tell if there's any dissenters. So President Cost, please bring back the passes unanimously. No egos are intentionally being bruised during the making of this podcast. That was pretty much it for the meeting of the whole. Any comments from you, additional things you noticed or jumped out at you in this meeting?
It was just a long one. It was a long one. A lot going on. But budget time, I think, is always going to be
crazy.
Yeah. And we need to take the time to review this stuff. So I was glad that folks were asking questions and probing questions.
Indeed. Yeah. There's so many. It would be easy for things to fall through the cracks and not get noticed. Oh, yeah. I mean, you just put it in another line item there and who's to say? Yeah. Yeah. So for best dressed at this meeting, a lot of people were looking spiffy. I have to say, honorable mentions go to Clerk Swope, of course, for a matte red wine jacket with shiny Art Deco accent pattern. Vice President Carter had a scarlet jacket over a bold black and white striped shirt, and a public commenter had a Star Trek t-shirt that I really loved.
Yes.
But the Blue Ribbon Award for Best Dress goes to Brian Britton, the latest sworn-in member of the Economic Development Corporation / Tax Increment Finance Authority / Lansing Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Advisory Board member, for his dramatic black suit, black shirt, and chaotic burnt sienna and tangerine tie.
Okay.
He's looking good. And you were there for the general meeting,
Yes.
knitting a very beautiful sock.
Thank you.
And it seems like that is a activity that you like to do at these meetings. Is that
Yes.
helpful for you?
It helps me stay focused.
Yeah.
So otherwise, I might start to daydream.
Or spiral.
Yes, or spiral. But it helps me focus. It's something that I do if I'm in a meeting at work as well. I promise I'm listening.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of an accepted practice now, that it's helpful to have something to do with your hands.
Yeah.
Like at my kids' school, they'll give them like fidget spinners to play with. Great. Council gave a special tribute in recognition of the Reading is Fundamental RIF program that has been working with Lansing schools for the last 50 years. 3 million books have been given out, and they said thank you to all of our community donors. My kid gets some RIF books.
Yeah.
She loves them.
I remember it back in the day.
It's great.
Yeah.
And they're continuing on. There was a moment of memorial afforded to Jody Ackerman, a longtime Parks Department employee who passed suddenly. She ran the kids' camps and after-school programming at Foster Community Center. The mayor said his son has fond memories of attending these programs under her care.
Yeah.
Then Councilmember Brown said, thank you to the office manager for getting me a new chair. And Councilmember Pelly Vonnegut said, and where can I get one of those?
Yes.
Yes.
That was, I love it when there can be a lighthearted moment in the meetings, because otherwise it gets so stodgy.
Yeah.
It gets just bogged down. And yeah, I'm glad that they show us that they're human beings.
For sure. The mayor reminded us all that yard waste starts a week from Monday. So on the 14th, we did have a podcast listener question about that. So there's some information for you, Mike. Now to the meat of the meeting. There were many folks from the community at the meeting to speak out about a proposed ordinance change.
Yes.
And Councilmember Jackson, I thought, set this up nicely. He said, we have 4 sex-related ordinances in Lansing. It's illegal for prostitution, indecent exposure, voyeurism, and in a 1986 ordinance, no people are allowed to be using the restroom of not the gender they were born into. And it's punishable by jail, so a criminal offense.
Right.
And if we do change this, so just that last part about which bathroom you use, it's still going to be illegal to do all those other things.
Yes.
You can't be punching people in the bathroom, regardless of which one you're in.
Right.
And this will not just affect city buildings, but the entire city of Lansing.
Yes.
So 8 folks were at the meeting giving their support for repealing this ordinance.
Yes.
There were 12 written comments as well, and 1 virtual comment. That's the first time I've seen that work.
Okay.
And it worked great. We all heard the disembodied voice, but still effective. And the commenters were very well spoken.
They were.
They were talking about how changing this ordinance will preserve the dignity and safety of transgender folks who want to use the facilities without fear. It's a great step towards welcoming the queer community. And these types of laws can harm other folks too, such as women who don't fit the typical, quote, look of what a woman should be.
Yeah.
And they gave an example of that.
That's such a powerful example as well. Like, you have an actual woman using an actual ladies' room, and a man chases her in there because he thinks she's not a woman because she's really tall. Like,
and she loses her job. Yeah.
That's,
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And someone else made the comment that we're setting ourselves up to avoid future potential lawsuits if someone wanted to make an example using this law, which I thought was an interesting point as well. One transgender person who works for the permitting office on the 7th floor of City Hall spoke out saying, I will feel safer without this ordinance at work.
Yeah.
So great to hear. There was one dissenter feeling displeasure with the repeal, said that there could be unintended consequences. Maybe let's just revise the ordinance to add our transgender friends and still make it illegal for, quote, men to enter, quote, ladies' rooms. Lansing is a violent city, the 17th most violent. We should be focusing on reducing the violence.
Have we fact-checked that?
I did not.
Okay.
But that would have been a good idea. She said.
Yes.
The council will vote on the repeal of this ordinance at their next meeting, April 21st. Some other public comments given at the meeting. One comment about the budget. We don't need funds for facade redesign or neighborhood projects or giving tax breaks to developers. Studies show that 1 out of 11 jobs promised by developers at meetings like the ones we've seen ultimately manifest. We need the city to be safe and livable, and I don't like these fee increases.
Yeah.
Another person said, it is a disgrace seeing all the boarded up houses right next to the Capitol. Please fix them or tear them down. There was another comment about the flooding. There were a lot of flood barriers put up last year.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing these this year. Where have they gone? Why aren't they being used? An Eaton County resident was there. This person had the Star Trek shirt on. And she said, I'm in the zone where there's a special election in May, and I am mad at Chris Swope specifically and the clerk's office in general for moving the polling place several miles away and not providing transportation until I complained. And the transportation being provided will take an hour for me to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, that surprised me. So they're having the Eaton County folks in the Leno neighborhood, right, the Lansing-Eaton Neighborhood Organization, they're voting all the way out by Horrocks?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I wonder.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to drive that way.
Even if you had a car.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Let alone taking a bus.
Yeah.
There were 2 folks speaking about their red tagged properties. They were saying, we're working hard to get our buildings back up to code. Please don't tear them down. The council voted on 4 red tag properties to give them the make safe or demolish order. 1 was given 30 days to make safe or demolish. 2 were given 60 days. And for 1 property, council got an update on the property just before the meeting that they had passed their final inspection. So the property had already been made safe. There was some confusion over what to do next. Should they go ahead and pass the make safe or demolish order, and then it will be immediately closed, but there will be a record on the property/property owner. And President Koss said, let's just go ahead and do it so we are not plunged into some sort of
Bizzaro world.
And Councilmember Jackson said, let's not. It'll be a dark mark on their record. But 6-1, the order went through.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That was interesting, and I did like that the attorney was able to give them, on the fly, give them some advice on that, because it sounds like that had never happened before, where they had such a late-breaking determination that somebody was in compliance.
Then the council did vote unanimously to transfer the industrial facilities exemption certificate and Renaissance zone for Ultium Cell, the electric battery plant that is built just west of the city, from half GM, half LG Energy Solutions to all LG Energy Solutions. And this is something that's been in the works for a while. So that all went through. And Carl Dorshemer from the Lansing Economic Development Corporation and Lisa Niscaromi with LG were in attendance to see that. So they should be pleased. What do you think about the battery plant?
Same as your last guest. I think it's so far completed that you're kind of beholden now to just do what they want us to do, right? Like it's like, what are we gonna do? Say no, and it's like almost completely built, right? Like, so yeah.
Maybe LG will be a good partner for the city. I hope so too.
I hope so.
Next, the council adopted the fees for the unregistered vehicle ordinance that they passed last meeting. So the fees are $30 if paid within 14 days, $40 if paid between 14 and 28 days, and $50 for paying after 28 days. And those fees can be accrued every day.
Okay.
So get those unregistered vehicles or pay the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm curious every time I see these fees that accrue every day. It feels
predatory.
Yeah, that might be a good word for it. It's so knocking on doors, talking to folks while I'm running for office. Not that fee is because it just was voted on yesterday, but things like the code compliance. I talked to folks that might be older folks that have paid off their homes, have lived in their same house for 30 plus years, and maybe they can't cut the grass the way they used to. They can't, trash might be starting to pile up. And it's this like every day, that just seems so onerous. It seems so, I think predatory is a good word. Like these are folks that couldn't do the thing that they were trying to do in the first place. So I guess here, these are people that, all right, your car doesn't work.
Right.
Your car is broken down.
Yeah. And
now you're going to ding me every day while I'm trying to scrape together enough money to call a tow truck. Right? Like, I don't know. That doesn't sit great with me. Mm-hmm. But I haven't sat down to come up with a solution. Mm-hmm. So I don't like to complain about things if I don't know the solution.
I think it is tricky because is harm being done? Like, are people being harmed by the grass not being cut?
Right.
By the snow not being shoveled?
Right.
I mean, and sometimes yes.
Yes.
And what is the dollar value of that harm?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think anytime that you have a fee or a fine like that, people that have lots of money can pay it, and they don't care.
It. Yeah.
So let's go way, way, way back when I was at Michigan State for undergrad, and it would be a football game day, and I was a music student trying to go practice in the music building, and there's cars everywhere parked illegally, but they don't care. Yeah. Because they're going to just pay the ticket, right? Uh-huh. And that's what it comes down to. Like, people that don't have means, people that don't have resources are going to struggle disproportionately anytime you've got something like that.
Yeah. If you have means, you're protected by the law. Yeah. And if you don't, you're bound by the law.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. What are your questions about the city council? Have you ever made a 311 call to the city? How did it go? Who would you like to be our next guest? Speaking of next guests, the next meeting of the council will be in 2 weeks on April 21st, and our special guest will be Stax 92.1 radio DJ Metro Malik.
Beautiful.
Would you like to give a shout out for anything,
Oh,
Julie?
My goodness. How many shouts? Is it shout outs or shouts out? How many can I give? Sure. I want to thank the folks that are helping me with my city council campaign. Mm-hmm. When I ran for charter commission, it was pretty much just me. It's a whole different animal when there's a team.
Yeah. How many folks do you have on your team?
Oh, gosh. Like, depending on who you count as team, we've got a weekly meeting that there's 6 or 7 of us that are there every week, and I'd say Amazing. There's like 3 or 4 other folks that are I would call them team members as well. So it's exciting to be able to do that. I want to shout out A Place for Us. That's a group that I work with. We're trying to work on some of the issues of our unhoused LGBTQ neighbors. Mm-hmm. Rent is too damn high. I mentioned them earlier, but I will always shout them out. That is a great organization. Strong Towns Lansing, which is just starting up, but there's a group of us that are trying to talk about a lot of that. Talk is walkability, bikeability, just how to make the city a better, more inviting place for everyone. Mm-hmm. I'm probably forgetting something because I'm involved with
three shout outs.
A lot of things.
Is good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for allowing this shout out.
Yes, and I guess on your trips door knocking, what else have you been hearing from folks? What are people concerned about or interested in?
That's a great question. And I think part of it is the timing of when I'm knocking, and part of it is the neighborhood. So I was out while they were demolishing Eastern, and I was in those neighborhoods. Okay. And that was really hard to hear what some folks are dealing with there. Like, that's, I know that U of M Sparrow has kind of pitched it. Well, if you want Eastern to stand, then you're against mental health. Yeah. And I'm like, that is just so disingenuous to make. I'm very much a both and person. Like, I'm not either or. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, that was disingenuous. I understand where folks are coming from, that like, okay, it's just a building, mm-hmm. but I also understand from these folks that like it has historical significance, or it had, historical significance, and that they couldn't save any of the elements was, that was discouraging.
No compromise.
Yeah. Which I don't care for. So people talking about that, A lot of folks concerned about the roads.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks concerned about snow removal that didn't seem to happen very well this past winter.
On the roads?
Yeah.
The plowing?
Yeah, the plowing. Like it, everybody I talked to thinks they were the absolute, they plowed every street except ours. And I'm like, you're the seventh person that said that to me. So yeah, there was definitely some issues around that. Sometimes I'll roll up to somebody and I'm like, okay, so what do you want to see different about this city? And they're like, this city is perfect just the way it is.
Oh, wow. Love Lansing.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, you're going to think of something later. Like as soon as I walk away from your door, you're going to come back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There are folks for whom this is a beautiful, wonderful city. And there are folks for whom we need to help fix things so we can get more of us into that category of not having issues and concerns.
Yeah. Perception is everything.
Yeah, for real.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
And
this is delightful.
Good luck.
Thank you.
On your race.
I appreciate that.
Excited to see your name on the ballot again. Thank you so much to the Public Media Center for letting us record with you. And thanks again for listening. Have a good one.